So, good morning once again and welcome to those of you in this very room. Good morning or good afternoon and welcome to those of you joining us on Zoom, thanks to the joys of, or Facebook, thanks to the joys of technology. We're so glad you're with us today. Our topic for 2022 is Living Everyday Wonder. I love the concept of wonder because we're so black and white. We're so cut and dried. We do our affirmative prayer, our spiritual mind treatment, and so it is. And it is. But sometimes we attach all the conditions. So my abundance, my financial abundance has to come this way. It's got to come UPS, not FedEx or DHL or Postal Service. It's got to do that and be that and all the rest of that. But could we allow some wonder about how this most amazing life is going to manifest for us? It's just the greatest thing. So living everyday wonder. And for the month of May, we're going to talk about our emotions. Ooh. Which to me is so incredibly exciting because we don't talk about our emotions. Everything is in divine order and everything is as it should be, and that's absolutely true, and I'll talk more about that in a little while. But so I'm so excited that we're going to allow ourselves to talk about something that we don't always talk about. So I brought some friends with me this morning. And I learned something, and you might have already known this. I thought emoji had something to do with the word emotion, but it doesn't. Emoji is it's a Japanese word. The E is for picture, and the moji is for character. So that's see the things you learn in church on Sunday, right? You know, there'll be a test later. So the resemblance to the word emotion is purely accidental because that was not the original intention. So that's what an emoji is. So we use those on our text messages. We're happy, or we're laughing, or we're angry, or we're sad, or just all of those on our phone screen or on our Facebook post, but they don't always translate into our day-to-day life. So my topic for this morning is what's on your spice rack? Now, and you're like, okay, so what's that got to do with the price of rice? And I will make the connection, I promise. So in my kitchen, even though I don't really use them anymore, but probably in your kitchen, there are all sorts of spices. There's cinnamon and there's sugar, although sugar is not really a spice, but there's also paprika and cumin and just a variety of things. And in the book Ask and It Is Given, which is one of the Teachings of Abraham books, they write about this experience of the spice rack and of emotions that I'd like to share with you. Imagine yourself as a chef in an extremely well-stocked kitchen that contains every imaginable ingredient. Let us say that you have a clear idea of the culinary creation you desire, and you understand how to combine these easily accessible ingredients in order to fulfill your desire. And as you proceed, there are many ingredients that are not appropriate for your creation, so you do not utilize them, but you also feel no discomfort about their existence. You simply utilize the ingredients that will enhance your creation, and you leave the ingredients that are not appropriate for your creation out of your apple pie. So we don't need the cayenne pepper. We don't need the paprika. We don't need a lot of those things for the apple pie. We don't throw them out. We just leave them off to the side and take what we need. Some of the ingredients in this well-stocked kitchen are harmonious with your creation, and some are not. But you do not feel the need to push against those ingredients or to ban them from the kitchen because you understand there's no reason for them to end up in your pie unless you put them in. Interesting point, right? So they're there. We don't have to put them in the pie, which is a whole nother Sunday talk. Excuse me. So rather than getting rid of those emotions that don't apply, we just leave them on the shelf, but we also don't label them as good or bad. They just are. They're just there on the shelf. I was talking with a friend not long ago and reminded both of us that in this teaching, and I don't know about you, but it was my experience, we found new thought. And it's so wonderful, and it answered so many questions. And I'm like, okay, so now everything's going to work perfectly. So we're going to be financially abundant. We're going to have perfect health. Our relationships are going to work all of the time. There will always be a parking place, right? Always. And many of us probably believe that, and it ain't, to use pure wonderful English, it ain't necessarily so. But what we find is that life begins to work better, and we allow ourselves to recognize why that isn't working for us and question what we believe and then change what we need to change. Because before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So we're still chopping wood and carrying water. And I have a dear friend who is 91 years old, and we were talking about this, and I said, so you're still chopping wood and carrying water, and to me, when we don't need to do that anymore, we're done and we can move on. So I'm so happy you're still chopping wood and carrying water, because that means you're going to be here for a little while, just like the rest of us. So our emotions can tell us a lot about what we believe, what we don't believe. And so we're going to talk about that this morning. You might have heard the term spiritual bypass. So I'm going to talk a little about spiritual bypass and toxic positivity. Those are fairly new terms, coming from the belief that in this teaching, all is well, and all is well. But from time to time, we go through our, to use a purely spiritual term, stuff. We do. Because we're chopping wood and carrying water. So spiritual bypass was also called, the concept was developed by John Wellwood in 1984, and it's also called avoidance in holy drag. I think that's pretty much covers it. So, and in one of my favorite books, Spiritual Bypassing by Robert Augustus Masters, he writes, spiritual bypass are the reactions and experiences we have when we don't allow ourselves to feel what we feel. Defined as the use of spiritual practices and beliefs to avoid dealing with our painful feelings, unresolved wounds, and developmental needs. So things like exaggerated detachment. It's fine. Fine. How are you? I'm fine. My dog was just run over. I'm fine. Just ran into a telephone pole. I'm fine. Was a terrible day, but I'm fine. Fine. Just fine. Emotional numbing and repression. Overemphasis on the positive. It's all good. We'll talk about that in a minute. Anger phobia. I don't know about you, but I was raised that I don't care what happens, don't you even think about getting angry, because somewhere in the Bible, I think it's I'm not sure if somebody got turned into a pillar of salt, but something awful happened to somebody that got angry. So you're just not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be even keel and all is well and just suck it up and move on. Blind or over-tolerant compassion and premature forgiveness. That's another talk about the process of forgiveness as compared to the magic wand kind of experience. Weak or porous boundaries. So I'm not going to allow that anymore, except that you talked me into it. And then judgment about our negativity. So that's spiritual bypass. And then toxic positivity is expressed in statements like, it's all good, it's in divine order, it's all in divine order, everything is as it should be, it's God's will, don't give up. And what I know is the universe has a sense of humor, and I was giving my talk on this subject and then doing a workshop on healing grief at another center, and one of the songs that the musicians sang was Don't Worry, Be Happy. And I'm like, oh, God. I know, right? I'm like, really? And the truth is, all of these statements are absolute. They are true. It is true that everything is in divine order. It is true that it's all good. But the fact is, and I was taught that truth never changes, but facts do. The fact is, I'm really angry. The fact is, my heart is breaking. The fact is, and you get to fill in the blank. So those emotions that we don't look at, the anger, the grief, the hurt, the fear, all of those emotions bring us amazing wisdom and lessons when we allow them to, rather than shooting on ourselves and not allowing ourselves to feel what we feel. For example, anger tells us where we are feeling powerless. Anxiety can tell us something in our life is off balance. Fear can tell us what we care about. Apathy can tell us where we are overextended and burned out. Our feelings aren't random, they are messengers. So as we feel that, rather than, no, all is well, covering it up with some sort of platitude, we can question it. We can get comfortable with it, and we'll talk more about that. And so why am I afraid of this? What's going on here? What story am I telling myself? And is there a way for me to change this feeling? And if not, what do I need to change about my life in order for this emotion to heal? I grew up in the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church, and we were not encouraged to ask questions, and we were not encouraged to offer any kind of editorial comment or emotions. So it is what it is, and you'll sit there and you'll like it. And for many of us, we grew up, and depending on your growing up situation, and we were little children at one point, and so many of us, this might be new for us, but it's a wonderful opportunity for us to come into relationship with the truth of who we are and the wisdom that our emotions bring to this experience that we call life. So I don't know about you, but I have two buckets. I have a bucket of bad emotions, anger, bitterness, resentment, regret, fear, hurt, and judgment. We could be here till middle of the afternoon on the bad emotions. And then there's the good emotions. There's the love, the peace, the joy, the happiness, all of those things. And there's the bad bucket and the good bucket. And so the opportunity, because I don't like the word challenge, the opportunity is to run a pipe from the bad bucket and the good bucket down to a third bucket and just call them emotions. So with that experience of wonder, why am I fearful about this? Why am I angry about this? Why am I questioning this? So coming from that place of curiosity rather than judgment about what we're feeling. We don't always ask. And isn't it wonderful to know that we know? And sometimes it's the small w, the we, as in I know, and sometimes it's the capital W, the spirit, the universe, the one mind knows. And we can always ask, I don't know, what do I believe about this, that this is bugging me so much? Do we allow ourselves to ask that? It's so incredibly important. Why does this make me angry? Why does this bother me so much? What button is this pushing? That's an old expression, but many of us, you remember that. So I'm sorry. It still works, yes, yeah. I said something about old tapes the other day, and the person I was talking with looked at me like I had three heads because an old tape, it is scotch, off the roll. It was incredibly insulting. But that's a separate Sunday morning talk. Why does this bother me? And because it's me, is there something, if I am truly being abused, I can go to that person, the people involved, and talk to them about it. But if it's just my stuff, what can I change about my beliefs about myself or about life to change those emotions, not from bad to good, but just to ones that feel better? In one of the other books from Abraham, she talks about we're always looking for a thought that feels better. And that's what we're doing, to one that is more loving, more nurturing, more affirming. As we do this, it begins to create more balance and harmony in our emotions. Now, we can go a little overboard in both directions. Everything is wonderful, and I'm so joyful, and it's just so exciting, I can't stand it. Versus the Eeyore experience. If Winnie the Pooh is one of my heroes, and so if you're familiar with the story, you know that Eeyore is the donkey that has issues because his tail keeps falling off, and so he's got it nailed to his backside. And it's just one thing, yeah, exactly, one terrible thing after another. So our intention is to move from too much of one side or the other into a more harmonious experience. And so as we allow ourselves to look and to feel what we feel, this can become our experience. So that's nice, right? But why does it matter? Well, too much of one or the other can obviously affect the quality of our day-to-day lives. Blind compassion, like we talked about before, the premature forgiveness can wind up as resentment toward whoever it is we forgave, and regret for ourselves for forgiving them so soon. So there are lots of emotions and lots of feelings that come along when we're not consciously aware of the choices that we're making. Anger can come out in surprising and wonderful ways as road rage, as cashing in all my stamp books. And very quickly, I have a friend that years and years ago was a psychologist, and he talked about cashing in your stamp books. And again, this is one of those things that some of you will not remember, but for those of you that do, if you don't remember it, I don't want to hear about it. But for the rest of us, the blue chip or the S&H green stamps or the true value stamps. And so when you went to the grocery or one of the other a retail store, you would get trading stamps. And you'd bring them home and put them in your book.
You're making me feel old.
We're not going there. And but just so you know, that's how my family got the first set of TV trays and the toaster oven. What's a toaster oven, right? Oh my God. You're right. So something happens, and I'm kind of angry. But rather than saying something about it, I put a stamp in the book. And something else happens, and I put a stamp in the book. And something else happens, and I put a stamp in the book. And then one day, when I might have not had as much sleep as I thought I wanted, and the computer just won't boot up for whatever reason, I cash in all my stamp books and throw that blankety-blanking thing across the room. Or somebody says, gee, you look tired. Didn't you get enough sleep? And you cash in all your stamp books and say, not enough sleep. Let me tell you. Blah, 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 blah. So how important it is for us to recognize those emotions as just plain emotions, not good or bad. Grief just shows up in the goofiest ways. And Reverend Suzette was talking about this last night. Ministers who cry. Thank God for ministers who cry, that can show emotion. Thank you. So last night at the concert, I'm walking down the aisle at the intermission, and I looked at this woman sitting there, and I'm like, I know you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This woman was a staff minister at the church where my late husband and I met in 1985. I had not seen her in 30 plus years. It was absolutely amazing. And so I want to go home and tell you who I saw. And of course, it doesn't work. So if someone in your life has made their transition, you know that, we get over it and we feel like, okay, I've grieved and I've moved on and I have a wonderful new relationship and blah, blah, blah. But there's always more. There's always more love. There's always more. And we honor ourselves when we allow this. Because if we don't, it comes out in other ways. Who ate all the lemon Oreos? What happened to that pint of Ben & Jerry's? I was going to save that pizza for tomorrow. Those are mine. Yours may be different. Or who ran up the credit cards? Or whatever the case might be. But if we don't allow ourselves to experience these feelings, they don't go away. They come in surprising and wonderful ways. Debbie Ford said, what you can't be with won't let you be. So how important it is for us to be with these emotions and to honor ourselves and to recognize what we feel rather than running away from them. And also being aware that our emotions can affect what we, like we talked about, what we eat, what we buy, what we do, what we say. And so there's an expression, halt. So don't buy that, decide to eat that, decide to say that if you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Just I'm going to take a step back and ask why I'm feeling this way, and then move forward, but allow ourselves to feel those feelings. So during the month, we're going to talk about fear, as Jody talked about earlier this morning, happiness, anger, and sadness. And I hope you'll choose to be with us for all 4 of these weeks, because it's going to be really interesting, and I so look forward to it. Learning as well as sharing ideas. And of course, whenever I'm sharing ideas with you, I'm always talking to myself, as you well know. So, no shame, no guilt, no regret, but curiosity and wonder. Where did this come from? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I angry about this? Why did that hurt my feelings? Coming from that place of love and compassion for ourselves so that we can move forward. So I have a quick process I would like to do with you. So I invite you to get comfortable wherever you are. Just relax into the peace and the quiet of this moment and drop into that silence and that peace and be exactly where you are. And picture that physical place of perfect peace on the mountain, at the beach, or in the quiet, dark room, whatever resonates for you. And know the truth of your being, that you are the essence, expression, and experience of spirit, experiencing all these wonderful human emotions. And check in with anger. Check in with resentment, with regret, with hurt, with fear. And just feel those and allow yourself to be with them for just a moment. And see yourself walking up to your fear, or walking up to your anger, or walking up to your grief. Take it by the hand. Feel into it. Feel for it without judgment, without anything other than your presence with that feeling, with that emotion. Look at it full-faced. And recognize that that's you. That's the beloved you looking back at you. Humanize it fully and embrace it. Now, open your eyes or turn on the lights slowly. Let your heart soften. Breathe a little more deeply, bringing what you might have formerly called your negativity closer to you at a fitting pace. Let its pain and longing break your heart. Your ambition to transcend your negativity is now all but gone, as you realize right to your core that your true work is to reclaim and re-embody it. You are with yourself more deeply. Your initial aversion all but gone, and now hold what you previously termed your negativity in the way that loving parents hold their distressed child, bringing it into your heart. No negativity now, just love ease, recognition, presence, and effortless wholeness. This is life in the raw, too real to be reduced to positive and negative, too alive to be shut down. So we just allow these feelings, these emotions in this human experience, recognizing that it's all part of us. So I'd like to close with my very most favorite reading from the mystic poet Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a moment. And in this light, we recognize that we are the beloved. We are the essence, expression, and experience of spirit. We are the one, because that's all there is. And as we recognize that, we embrace all those attributes of us, all those emotions that make us the unique and wonderful and amazing humans that we are. We embrace those and allow ourselves to embrace those emotions that we might have judged as wrong or bad. We now welcome into our experience, looking at them in appreciation and in wonder, and allow ourselves to ask, what gift have you brought me today? So we move forward remembering the truth of who we are, remembering that it's all part of us, and we embrace it, and we love it, and we accept it, and we give thanks for it. We give thanks for this thing called life, for all the experiences, knowing that truly all is well. For our time together, for this beloved spiritual community, we give great thanks. And together we say, and so it is. Thanks, everybody.